Great. All right, guys, what's up? What up, y'all? This is Joey McKernan with The Chosen Show. And we just have another incredible week, episode number 23, I believe. And so I am so excited for this week's discussion. Again, our heart, our passion, our purpose for this show is to ignite you into your God-given calling and purpose. Whether you're a church leader, business leader, nonprofit leader, we want to ignite you. We want to take you higher, and we want to see you change the world around you. And so we really pray and hope that this content helps you, serves you. And again, we're here just to serve you. And so I'm here with my man, Terry Shanahan. How are you doing, bro? You doing all right?
Joe, you're doing great, man. Thanks for having me on the show.
Absolutely. Terry is a trainer. He is a physical nutritionist. He understands nutrition. And this week we're really talking about getting healthy physically. I think this is a big thing. I also think many times this is overlooked when it comes to us walking into our purpose, calling with Jesus. We love to go to Bible studies. We love to go to church. And all those things are powerful. But, you know, we want to include our spiritual health, but we have to remember our physical health too. And so, Terry, man, can you just share a little bit about yourself, where you're from, maybe why you got into nutrition in the first place? Where did you get this passion for physical health?
You bet, man. No, absolutely. And you know, our speaking real quick on just what you said, I mean, like we have these amazing bodies, and our bodies truly are amazing. They have the ability to heal. They have the ability to do, so many things and adapt and overcome. And, I feel it's almost disrespectful and sinful to not take care of ourselves and not take care of this amazing body that we've been given. And so for me, I'm from Omaha, Nebraska. I was born and raised here. I went to Catholic schools my entire life, went to Creighton Prep for high school, went to Creighton for college. And I always had a passion for athletic performance. I was a good athlete, not Rob Johnson, Josh Dotzler type athlete, but a good athlete. Sure. The only thing I can do now is hang with those guys on the golf course, but that's about it. But that's like once every 10 rounds with Rob. But anyway,
hey, Rob is good.
Rob's a player, that's for sure. But anyway, so I was always into athletic performance. I was really fascinated by like training, like being in the best shape for a sport, and how being in great shape or training, could get you ready to be optimal. And so I would say that like my passion is really for optimizing things. So, my passion is certainly fitness, nutrition, and wellness. And there's a lot of things that I would classify as wellness that actually help with performance. And so wellness might be things like controlling inflammation, optimizing gut health, lowering, I said inflammation, but like lowering inflammation and stopping inflammation in the body, optimizing hormones, gut health, limiting and lowering toxicity in the body. We also have to look at things like managing stress, improving sleep. All of these things are very, very much overlooked, and we'll get into, but these are things that I'm very passionate about. And so for me, grew up playing sports, loved lifting weights, loved athletic performance, just training to be fit and to be in shape. And so I've been passionate about that really since grade school, and was really into in college. I got really into mixed martial arts. So I trained in jiu-jitsu and kickboxing. And from that, I became really fascinated about the strength and conditioning aspect of it. And so I would help coach guys, who were pro fighters in training. And then that kind of evolved to more and more things. And it started with fitness, and then eventually, kind of went into more sports performance, athletic performance. And then in 2004, I graduated from Creighton in 2003. And in 2004, I kind of had some really weird health issues where I didn't have a disease. I looked healthy, but I was having horrible fatigue and joint pain and, kind of brain fog. My cognition and my focus wasn't there. Some skin issues. I mean, I had a handful of a long list of symptoms, but I didn't have any diagnosis. So I saw all these different doctors. They couldn't figure out what the heck was going on. And so finally I met this woman who I call her my crazy hippie friend. And now granted, this was 2004. So this was before YouTube, before blogs. Right. And she was literally this crazy hippie chick from Oregon. And she's like, oh, I can help you. You know, like you just have to change your diet and heal your gut and lower your inflammation and blah, 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 blah. And I thought she was crazy, but I'd seen literally 27 doctors over a 2-year period, and nobody could really tell me what was up, and didn't really have a good answer. Of course, they just all wanted to put me on a different drug. And so this woman, within like 6 weeks, she changed my life. And I was 24 years old, and I just became so passionate about, oh my gosh, like I didn't have a disease, but I wasn't optimal. I wasn't feeling my best. I wasn't performing my best. I wasn't looking my best. And so she changed my diet. She said, hey, you need to stop eating sugar. You need to stop eating processed grains. You need to stop eating processed dairy, and you need to eat real foods, and we need to heal your gut and take some supplements. And again, this is 2004. So this stuff is more acceptable now because we have great blogs. But in 2004, people thought I was nuts when I did this. And so that is what sparked my passion. And then real quick, I'll kind of finish on this question. So that sparked my passion. And I just became constantly learning and researching and studying and traveling and learning from different people. And then I realized that what can help somebody with health and wellness can also play a huge role in, of course, how you look. So like body composition, but also athletic performance. And so Kyle Korver, who's a great, Christian leader in the world, who's plays in the NBA, he was a good friend of mine from college. We used to work out together. We were friends in college. And he was going through some horrible 3 surgeries in one off season. His body was beat up. He was 29 years old. He thought he was going to have to retire because he was so beat up, and he was really kind of at a down point in his career. And we were friends, and we had known each other, and he had seen the change in me and my diet and how well I was doing. And so he became very open to making some changes. And so he actually, right around that time, is when I kind of transitioned out of the business world and into the wellness coaching, nutrition, performance coaching. And he had hired me and had to come move to Salt Lake City and to help him get to the next level in his career. And he did an amazing job, totally changed his body, changed it. There was other factors too, besides nutrition, but, and now we know the end of that story. 10 years later, he is still playing in the NBA at 39 years old and has a chance to win a title this year. So anyway, so I went from my own personal experience in wellness to coaching. And through that, I worked with a bunch of professional athletes, Olympic athletes, CrossFit champions. And then I've also done a lot of work with weight loss and with people with health issues, as far as like autoimmune inflammatory type issues.
It's so good, man. And I love just your well-rounded experience just in this conversation. Because I think for me, this has been a new one for me. Not new. I've been an athlete, right, my whole life. But I think I didn't see the benefit of being highly healthy, like physically, until probably the last couple of years. I think when you're really young, you just you have so much energy. You're not seeing what's happening to your body, right? Or you're eating crap, or you're not getting sleep or whatever. But I started to feel it, right? You start to feel it. You start to like, oh my gosh, like I didn't know how cloudy I was thinking. I didn't know how tired I was during the day. I didn't know the type of energy I could have, but I just didn't even know because I wasn't unlocking it within myself. And so just, can you expand a little more of why it's so important to do some of this stuff? I think that's really, if I'm listening to this, like, why is it so critical to the other aspects of our life to be physically healthy?
Yeah, man. Most people have no idea what it feels like to feel good. Period. Most people that you work with, most people running around, and I'm talking like successful people. I'm not talking about, obese people or people who are really, really unhealthy. I'm talking about most normal people have no idea what it's like to feel great because they have never felt great, or they haven't felt great since they were in high school or college or whatever. And so here's the deal, man. Like anything we do requires energy. Like energy, people say time is the most valuable resource or whatever. It's not money, it's time. Like money you can get more of, time you can't get more of. Well, I would argue that it's not time, it's energy, because there's plenty of people that are stuck in a body that doesn't work, you know, whether they're 30, 40, 50, 60 years old, you know, but there's a lot of people in their 50s and 60s and 70s who, because of science and because of drugs, they're going to live a long life, but it's not going to be a good life. It's not going to be an optimal life. It's not going to be fun. It's not going to be exciting because they feel horrible. And so I would argue that energy is the most important resource. So optimal energy, feeling your best, because when you feel your best, you have the ability to live your purpose, you know, whether that be, you know, whatever that may be, whatever your purpose may be, you know, in you know, different types of nonprofit work or you know, if you work for a church or for an organization like Abide, you have to have energy. And you have to be able to combat stress, right? So in a day when you're trying to, you know, live out your mission, you're going to have stress. You're going to have things, you're going to have roadblocks. You're going to have things that are going to fluster you. They're going to upset you. There's also going to be things going to make you excited, but for the most part, there's going to be a lot of things that are going to frustrate you. And if you are not a person who feels great, who has energy, then you can't live your best life, and you can't certainly live your mission. For example, one of the biggest things that people don't understand is that there are more neurotransmitter receptor sites in your gut than there are your brain. Okay, so you've heard, you know, people say like, I had a gut feeling, and now there's so much out there about gut health. People talk about probiotics, they talk about the microbiome, you know, your gut makeup. So people who are depressed, people who are anxious, people who have poor focus, poor mood, you name it. Like a lot of that is strictly from gut health, and it happens. It's from what you eat, and it's from how your gut health is. And so if you want to have focus and energy and a positive outlook on life and a positive mood, you have to take care of yourself, and you have to optimize your body to do that.
That's good. Yeah. And I think, Terry, as you're talking, I heard a quote that said, we are production centers, right? We are producing like in our lives, and we produce things and we work. But a lot of times we don't even realize the energy or the lack of energy that we have. And I work with a lot of pastors, Christian leaders, different people. And I was talking to a guy one time, and he was telling me how he needed to take a 7-month sabbatical of his life. And I was like, bro, I mean, I'm all for sabbaticals, right? I'm taking a vacation here in a couple of weeks with my wife. But I was like, man, if you need 6 to 7, 8 months to replenish or to re-energize yourself, there's probably something you're doing wrong in your daily habits. You know what I'm saying? Your weekly habits. Like, we have to get control of this now, every week, and replenish our energy and fill physically, spiritually, mentally. And so I just think as you're speaking, it's like, guys, as you're listening to this, it's like we have to get control of our health in all aspects, but especially the physical, because it affects so many parts of our energy throughout the week.
Right.
And so that's so good, man. That's so good. Can you expand a little bit on gut health? So I hear this term, especially when I'm watching stuff on YouTube or something, or like a video on internet and on Instagram. Someone will say gut health. What exactly does that mean? Is that just what we eat, or is there different parts of that? What does that mean?
It's complicated. And you know, again, it's so funny because like when I had those health issues back in 2004, 2005, my crazy hippie chick friend was like, oh, you got to take a probiotic and you got to heal your gut. And doctors were like, that's total. Sorry, I got a call there, man, but hopefully.
You're
okay.
good.
So, you know, doctors were like, you're crazy. That's total BS. There's no proof, blah, blah, blah. And now there's tons of stuff. It's very proven. Like, it's very widely accepted. Although a lot of traditional medicine practitioners aren't up on the latest research because it's not part of their scope of practice. But so gut health is essentially, we have a microbiome. Okay. So we have a microbiome in our gut. So from the time we put food in our mouth until the time it leaves us and we go to the bathroom, it goes through our digestive tract. And in that digestive tract, in our gut, so to speak, there are bacteria, good bacteria, and there's bad bacteria. Okay. And in a perfect scenario, you have the proper amounts of good bacteria and low amounts of bad bacteria. There's always going to be bad bacteria, but you primarily have enough good bacteria. Okay.
Okay.
And so this bacteria is formed at birth. Okay. So if we are born, vaginally through our mother, literally through the canal, through the birth process, bacteria comes into our skin, into our nose, into our mouth, into our body, and our bacteria starts to develop. Our gut biome starts to develop. There's also research to show that we have biomes in different parts of our skin and probably many different organs in the body, but the gut has been the most studied. And the gut is something that we now know controls everything. Okay. So that bacteria starts on day one from birth. And then with breast milk, the beginning of breast milk, we have something called colostrum. And colostrum is a very powerful substance that's in breast milk, and that helps form and heal and develop our gut and our gut bacteria. Okay. And so over time, as we have stress, and stress isn't just like emotional stress or stress in the media or, politics or whatever, those things are stressful, or relationship stress. There's many different types of stress. So stress can be bacterial infection, viral infection. It can be too much light, too much heat, too much cold. It can be just very tough adaptation to our body, toxicity, chemicals in the environment, chemicals in our home. It could be mold in our home. There's so many things that stress the body out, and that causes disruption in hormones. It causes a lot of toxicity in the body, which can also affect gut health. Now, one of the biggest things that affects gut health is antibiotics. And so antibiotics can at times indiscriminately kill good. They're made to kill the bad bacteria if you have an infection or if you have bacteria, but they can also indiscriminately, so they're not specific enough to just kill the bad, they kill the good. And so a lot of times we've all been on antibiotics, or, we're sick as kids and we're on antibiotics. And if our gut bacteria gets out of whack, that's called dysbiosis. And it means that we have too much bad bacteria, not enough good bacteria. There's just a dysregulation of the amounts of bacteria that we need. And so from there, we can start to develop issues. The most common is just digestive issues, constipation, diarrhea, sometimes like acid reflux, gut pain, bloating, things like that. But the thing is that most people don't understand is that, so the food we eat can feed that bacteria, right? So a lot of times sugar and processed grains and things like that can feed bad bacteria and can make us have too much bad bacteria. And so a lot of people who have what I call like autoimmune or inflammatory issues or symptoms or diseases, I again, I'm not a doctor. I can't say that this can treat, cure, prevent any disease, but I've seen some crazy stuff. And personally, it's affected me tremendously. So we now know that most autoimmune diseases when your own immune system is attacking your body. And so that might be like rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, MS. There's so many different types of things. Crohn's disease, IBS, like are thought to probably be inflammatory and autoimmune in nature. And autoimmunity in nature, any of those diseases generally is believed to start in the gut with dysbiosis or dysregulation in gut bacteria. And so the more unhealthy things we do, the more likely we are to have messed up gut bacteria. And the symptoms might not just be gut related, where you actually have a symptom of digestive distress. The symptoms could be skin related. Very often they're mood related. So depression, anxiety, poor mood, lack of focus. They could be skin related. They could be joint related. They could be almost anything. They could gut dysbiosis can cause weight gain. I mean, there's so many different things where if our gut bacteria is not optimal, we can have all kinds of issues. And so another big problem is in our food system, crops are sprayed with chemicals. Crops are hybridized and genetically modified. And all those things have a very negative impact on our gut bacteria, which then has a negative impact on our health, our mood, our energy, our focus, and our body composition.
That's good.
Yeah, that's a lot.
I just learned a lot of things in the last 5 minutes. That was really good. And I think a lot of it is just not being educated. One thing I've always loved about your plan, and we'll get into your plan, I'm sure, but just your level of education. And I know it's your job, but it's also, I think it's our responsibility for all of us to be educated, and to
Right.
understand, at least on a more, basic level of how that works, and how like having a healthy gut and all that type of stuff happens. Can you so you got the Shanahan plan, right? That's
Right.
your plan. That's your did you said it was a joke before? It started as a joke?
Yeah. Yeah, it started off as a joke when before I started my business, um, I would always help people. Friends would always come to me. People would always come to me and want help. Ask me questions, just have
Mm,
conversations like this. But generally they had health issues, or they want to change their body, or
sure.
whatever. And so somebody at one point started telling people they were on that Shanahan plan. And it was just a joke because that's my last name. And then pretty soon people kept calling it that. And I didn't even call it that. And I
Yeah.
thought it was, at first I thought it was stupid. I was laughing. I'm like, it was just a big joke. And then it kind of stuck. And then I'm like, well, I guess that's what we call it, So that's
That's
how it
funny.
happened. Yeah.
That's funny. So just roll with that thing.
Just let it happen, man. Just let it roll with it. Yep.
So I think for a lot of people, when they hear this, a lot of people want to be healthy. I mean, I probably talked
Right.
to, hundreds of people. That's the whole New Year's resolution, right? I'm going to get healthy, go to the gym, right? And we don't have to talk about goal setting, because I think that's a whole nother conversation. But um, where do you start? I mean, within your plan, I think that's maybe before we get into that, maybe just share a little bit about what maybe the general idea of your plan. What is it made of? What's kind of the skeleton of that?
Yeah. So I focus on, like, I have a background in fitness and I love working out, but I focus on what I call the other 23 hours. Okay.
Mm,
So the biggest misconception is I want to lose weight, so I'm going to work out. That's great. You should work out. Everybody should move. But a lot of times it doesn't move the needle, especially after the age of 30, or 35
mm,
or 40. Like, it just doesn't
mm,
move the needle. I mean, there's gyms I travel around, and there's gyms when I've gone to over the last 15 years, and I see the same people running on that treadmill or on that cardio
mhm.
equipment. And not to be judgmental, but they look worse now than they did last year and the year before and the year
Sure.
before. And they're working hard, they're showing up, but they're doing the wrong things, right? And
Yeah.
so I do help people in the gym, and I do help people program workouts, but I really focus on the other 23 hours.
Mm,
So when I work with somebody, I want to look at your diet and your lifestyle, everything else that's happening outside of the gym. So I've had people that have lost 80 to 100 pounds, and all they've done is walk. So you can absolutely lose a ton of weight without working out, but
sure.
most people can't lose a ton of weight without dieting. Like, it just doesn't. You have to change diet and lifestyle. So when I work with somebody, I first have them go through a very, very detailed questionnaire to look at all their lifestyle. And again, just to touch on this again, we look at sleep, we look at stress, we look at hormones, and a lot of times I'll have people get blood work done to look at very specific, what's called functional medicine lab testing, where you look at hormones, inflammatory markers, gut health, different things that most doctors don't run and aren't familiar with. And so you have to find a functional medicine doctor to do that. And I actually have a guy in your old neck of the woods in Bellevue who's fantastic, who I send all my clients
Mm,
to get that blood work. So we start there, and we also want to look at, you know, again, I mean, it's hormones, it's inflammation, it's gut health, it's toxicity, it's sleep, it's stress.
mm,
Those are the main things that we look at. And I want to dissect every area of your life, and I want to help you get rid of the things that are not helping you and increase the things that are helping you. And so we'll basically start there, and I'll identify what I see as all the issues. And then we'll figure out, what is your goal? Who are
mm,
you and what is your goal? Do you want to play professional sports? Do you want to just have enough energy to play with your kids and be optimal at work? Do you want to change your body composition? Are you having severe health issues? So it all comes
right.
down to the question people don't ask enough is, who are you and what is your goal?
Mm,
Because there's so much information on blogs and on Instagram and on Facebook and online, and everybody's different. Like,
right.
there are principles that apply to everyone, But you always have to ask, who am I and what is my goal? And then once you know that, then that depends. You know, if somebody just wants to lose 10 pounds and have a little bit more energy, then we can probably make some baby steps and do that. But if somebody wants to play pro sports or wants to lose 100 pounds or reverse health issues, then we have to go a little harder. And so I always tell people,
it's good.
Yeah. And so I always tell people, like, if you start here, this is like, you know, the standard American diet. And if I reach this arm way over here, all the way extended, that's me. Like, I'm crazy. And so I do some crazy stuff that most people don't want to do. But let's just move you in the right direction. Let's just make some baby steps. And so I like to take stuff in a transitional approach where we just make baby steps every couple of days, every week, you know, and if you succeed, you stay there, or excuse me, if you don't succeed and you struggle, we take a step back and we make a smaller step. If you succeed, we take one more step, you know. So I like the transitional approach. Now, there's some people who are wired, they're all or nothing. And so those people need to go all in on day one, and that's fine too. But basically, I help people, you know, heal their gut, optimize their hormones, look at how to work out better and smarter and not harder. I want to teach people how to eat real food. And that is the base of the pyramid. That has to be number one. You have to eat real food, whether you want to be keto, paleo, Mediterranean, vegan, vegetarian, whatever. You've got to eat real food. You got to get rid of sugar. You got to get rid of processed foods. And we can get more into that later. But it starts with nutrition, but we've got to look at all these other things. And sleep is another huge one. I always tell people, I wish I could sell sleep. I'd be a billionaire, because, you know, people need it so bad, and it's life-changing, but people don't do it, you know?
It's so good. And I love what you said before. You got to know what your goal is. You got to know why. And I think a lot of people don't have a why, or a strong why. Like, people, I think, generally want to be healthy. But I think for me, what has helped me be more healthy is I look at my wife, and I think I want to be there. I want to be with her for longer, right? As long as I possibly can. I want to be with her. I also, and if you're listening to this, you know, I think that's a great takeaway, obviously, before we get into some of these other questions. But I think you guys have to get a strong why. Like, you know, and I think it has to be deeper than just to even look good. I think it has to be deeper than that. I think for me, I've always said I want to lead. This is just like a tag for a phrase I say, but I want to lead at 100. That's what I always say. I want to lead. I met a guy one time, he was 96 and he was still leading with passion from a stage. And I thought, I want to be that brother. I don't know how he did it. I don't know. He's got energy out the roof. He's like 95, 96 years old. I want to be that guy, you know. I want to be who's almost 100, leading at a passionate, high level. And so that's why I do it. That's my deeper why. Before I get, you know, really lean in and go deep, I think we have to know our why. I really think that's critical.
Absolutely.
When we think of, like, just practically, obviously, I think a lot of us kind of, you did this, like Terry's over here, you know, doing some crazy stuff. I think a lot of us probably fit here just a little above. What are some big key, like, let's say maybe 3 or 4 big steps people can make or stop doing right now, like today? When they get done with this podcast, they can stop doing this right now. You kind of mentioned one of them, the processed food. That's a big one. I've heard that. I think we all kind of know that. Is there any other big, like, pillars you'd say, just stop it right now?
You know, oh man, it's tough, because, like, I've been in this world so long that, like, some of these things I forget how hard it is to do at first. Like, to me, it's just, I mean, people, it's so funny to me, like, when a super disciplined Christian leader tells me, oh, it's so hard. And to me, I'm like, wait a minute, like, you live an outstanding life of very strict practices, and you lead by example. That's hard. Like, that's way harder than this. Like, that's way harder than this, man. Like, what are you talking about? You know? I
Right,
mean,
right.
it's like when somebody who's like a pastor who lives a great life, who has a great marriage, who leads by example, who volunteers, who's in the community, who's literally in the spotlight, and they truly lead by example, and they live a very, very good. I'm like, dude, that's way harder than this,
Right.
like,
It's
so.
good.
I forget sometimes, and so sometimes, like now, like as I progress, I'm involved in different businesses, and so I actually do less coaching now, and I'm a little bit more selective. And so usually the people I work with are like, they're ready,
Sure.
and so like I always tell people, you won't change until you experience enough pain, right? Like the people who do this, they've experienced enough pain, whether it's a scare from health issues, whether it's maybe a breakup in a relationship and they're not happy with their body, or there's something going on where they have experienced enough pain that they're ready to change. And those are the people who get the best results generally. Now, what are the biggest things you can do? I mean, if I had to just simplify this to 3 or 4 things, I would say, number one, just eat real food. Okay. So just eat real food. Like every dang meal should be like meat and vegetable based. Some fruit, some nuts and seeds, but you shouldn't be eating out of packages, period.
That's good.
So lots of vegetables, properly raised animal proteins, nuts and seeds, some fruit. It's just that simple. Like if you just ate meat and vegetables for every meal, your body would change in weeks. Like it's that simple. Eggs would be included in that, of course, like fish and grass-fed beef and whatever. So just eat real food. Like that's number one. And it doesn't even matter. I mean, if you're just starting, it doesn't matter about counting calories and counting macronutrients and all that stuff. Like, don't even worry about that. Like just week 1, day 1, first month, just eat real food and see what happens. And a lot of people get too hung up on macronutrients and calorie counting and this and that. And there's a place for that, but it's very overwhelming for most people. So I would tell you to just start just with eating real food. That's number one. And then
Which I think is, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you
go
off.
ahead.
That's really good. What you're sharing, because I think we overthink this like crazy.
Totally.
Like there's 100 applications. What am I? 100 years old. Apps. There's 100 apps. There's videos, and I want to get into that in a second. Kind of all the programs and the social media and whatever. And it's like if you just started eating healthy. And I love what you said. Don't eat something that comes out of a package. That's powerful because that's so tangible. It's like we would be in a different place in the next month. So good.
Totally.
Sorry. Keep going. That was so good.
So just eat real food. And here's the deal. There is a time and a place for macronutrient counting and for calorie counting. Absolutely. Right. I'm not saying that doesn't matter, but for 95% of you out there, it doesn't matter. Because if you just ate real food for the next 30 days, your body would freaking change and you'd be like, oh my God, I can eat more. I can actually eat more and lose weight because you're eating the right things. And so, another thing that we'll talk about later is, a huge misconception is that fat is bad. Fat is not bad. Fat is optimal. We'll get into that later, but just eat real food is number one. The number 2 thing I would say is you got to strength train. Women, especially women who are cardio machines and want to, I'm all for, if you're passionate about a triathlon or a marathon or half marathon or whatever, if that's your passion, if you love it, great. But you got to strength train. If you want your body to change, you have to strength train. And there's been so many women that have absolutely helped transform their body beyond belief, even in their 30s or mid 30s or late 30s or 50s. A woman a year ago I started working with in her 50s, and her body has absolutely transformed.
Wow.
And she used to be a cardio machine. I mean, too much, like unhealthy. And now she barely does cardio, but she lifts hard and she eats well, and her body has changed. So number 1 is eat real food. Number 2 is you got to strength train. And number three, I would say is sleep. Sleep is so overlooked, and we're in this culture of, even within, I think, the Christian leadership culture of like 4 a.m. this, 3 a.m. this, and like go, and more is better, and blah, blah, blah. Like, hey, I respect that, and that's admirable, but you're killing yourself. Like, you're killing yourself. Like, it won't end well. I promise you. Like, whether it's in 1 month or 10 years, not getting sleep kills you. you know, and people who say, oh, I'll sleep when I'm dead, or, oh, sleep's a waste of time. No, like, I don't, like, it's not going to end well. And it's going to end with some disease or whatever. But we know that we need sleep, and sleep is crucial. So if I could give people advice, it's eat real food, strength train, and sleep. Those are the first three things. And then I know we're probably going to talk about some intermittent fasting. That's another pretty easy thing that we can add and we can talk about later.
So yeah, I want to get into that. I love those three easy, simple, practical, tangible steps, guys. And I think just taking that, and man, it's almost painfully simple. It's
It doesn't have to be
painfully
hard.
simple. Painfully simple. So wanted to shift gears a little bit into some of the more strategies. So want to talk about keto, intermittent. For that, you know, you see a lot of fads, right? Diets, a lot of videos. I mean, social media is filled with them. I mean, I'll scroll through and, hey, you know, they'll always jump in front. Hey, it's 10-day thing and you're going to lose 100 pounds. And I'm like, I think for the normal, just kind of day-to-day person who wants to thrive in life, but, you know, I don't know what to trust. You get what I'm saying? Like, I just don't think people really know what to trust. Is this smart? Is that just a fad, or is that really proven? I think, can you give a little insight to how to handle that?
Yeah. I used to tell people that my job with my client base is to sift and sort through all the information so you don't have to. Right. And so like a big part of what I used to have to do is sift and sort through things, like look at research, look at stuff. And here's the beauty of it is, like, I always tell people, like, I'm my own best client. Like I just turned 40 and you know, which sounds so old. It sounds crazy to me. Like, I'm like, oh my God, I'm old, you know? But I mean, like,
you're just getting started.
I mean,
you're just getting started.
Yeah, I'm just getting started, man. But, like, you know, it's like, I got abs, I'm in shape, I feel good. My advice. So there's a lot of different ways we can go here. A lot of it's marketing hype, right? There's a lot of marketing hype and this cleanse and that deal and that blah, blah, blah. Some of that stuff works, okay? Some of it does work. But, like, I take a different approach to this. And I want to teach you a lifestyle that it's a little bit slower, but you can do forever. Okay? So I've been living this lifestyle since 2004. So going on 16 years of my life that I've been doing this. And I've never wavered. I've never had a day, like maybe a meal here and there, but, like, I have not wavered from this, and because it works. And I have hundreds of clients who, you know, there's a lot of people who do great and then fall off and kind of yo-yo, but I have tons of people who've stuck in, who've been on this train forever and who will never go back. Now, here's the deal. Like, I used to be, there's so many different names, and these names fall into fad diets, like the paleo diet, the keto diet, Mediterranean diet, vegan, vegetarian, what have you. Now, the warrior diet, and a lot of those are marketing names. But we have to understand that I believe I believe in keto, I believe in paleo. I am not I'm not a huge fan of vegetarian and vegan diets, although I do work with people and I help them if they're on those to feel optimal. But okay, if we look at the history of the world, okay, so no matter what, like, your religious beliefs are and how you believe things came into to be, if we just look at, like, the evolution of man, like as man developed over time, okay, you can look back in time, and most people believe that, like, man started somewhere in Africa, and that it was, you know, roughly could be 2.5 million years ago was when the first being that sort of was like a Homo sapien that had 4 limbs and walked upright was on the planet. Okay. And so with that being said, we have to look at, like, the evolution of man, how things changed and what happened. And so if we look at that, there's a period of time from roughly 2.5 million years ago to 10,000 years ago, where the only thing that could have been consumed would be plants and animals, period. There was not processed food. There was not farming. There was not industrialized food. There was not all these things that are super toxic. Okay. So 10,000 years ago, okay. So let's just look at this. So 2.5 million, to 10,000 years ago. In the last
Mm-hmm.
10,000 years, if you take 10,000 divided by 2.5 million, that's less than 1%. It's a fraction of 1%. Okay.
Mm.
So for 99.9% of humanity, all we could eat was meat and vegetables, kill animals and pick plants. That's all we could eat. Okay.
Right.
10,000 years ago, roughly, there's signs of man started to eat grains or started to make like crackers or bread or things like that. But it was not super hybridized. It was not genetically modified, and things of that nature. Now, if we fast forward in the last less than 100 years, 80 to 100 years, we have kind of the Industrial Revolution where went through the Great Depression. And if we look at our grandparents, like our grandparents did not die of cancer, heart disease, stroke, diabetes, obesity, all these things. They did not have them. They did not die of them. Like our grandparents, most of them lived into anywhere from 75 to 100 years old. And that was pretty common and not on a bunch of drugs. And what did they eat? They ate meat and potatoes and vegetables, and they ate a ton of fat. They ate butter. They ate,
Right.
heavy cream, whatever. So much. My phone thing went on, so I'm gonna grab my charger here real quick. 1 second. Sorry. So here's the thing. Like, we look at the last 2.5 million years until, call it roughly like 10,000 years ago, food was the same. Things changed a little bit in the last 10,000 years. And then things changed a ton in the last 100 years, because we started doing a bunch of different stuff. We started consuming high amounts of, carbohydrates. We started bringing what's called man-made omega-6 oils into the mix. So that's things like cottonseed oil, soybean oil, canola oil. Like, so there's all these oils that are man-made omega-6 oils, which are extremely inflammatory and not good for us. And those have been brought into our body like in the last 50 years or so. And then in the 80s, we got this crazy carb kick, and it was paid for by breakfast cereals, by grain companies, okay, by breakfast food, big industrialized food companies. Breakfast is the most important meal of the day. Whole grains are going to cure you. All this crap that's totally lies, that has zero research. And so what happened is we started eating less fat. We started eating more sugar, more carbs, more breakfast foods, healthy grains. We started bringing industrialized omega-6 oils into our diet. And all of a sudden, we have the diseases of civilization that are running rampant. And so when we look at the diseases of civilization, we look at heart disease, we look at cancer, neurological disease, autoimmunity, and obesity. Okay, so those are things that really didn't exist that much 50 years ago. And now we have young people dying of those diseases every day. What changed? Well, what changed is our food system and how we eat. And so the bottom line is, I'm all about eating real food. People hear the paleo diet and they have a visceral reaction. Oh my gosh, or keto, but here's the deal. Like, those diets are, you call them a diet, call it a lifestyle, whatever. The answer is just eat real food. Don't eat processed grains. Don't eat sugar. Don't eat seed oils. And if you avoid those things, your body is going to absolutely change. And there's a direct correlation to when the food system changed to when disease ran rampant. And so, the conclusion is you got to eat real food. So I'm a big fan of the paleo diet. I'm a big fan of the keto diet for certain people, not for everyone, but for certain people. And for people who think the keto diet is a fad, there's studies in the 50s and 60s, peer-reviewed published studies on the keto diet. But there's a difference between people online talking about I'm keto and then people being on a medically induced ketogenic diet. Like there's a lot of misinformation. But for people who have autoimmune disease, for people who have any sort of symptoms, whether it's depression, anxiety, skin issues, digestive issues, joint pain, fatigue, obesity, so many of those people can absolutely be helped by a paleo or keto type diet.
Wow. And I remember I read a story. I don't remember what city it was. It was in Asia, and it was an only plant-based society. And all they ate was beans and plants and just a plant-based diet. And that's all
Sure.
they had. They didn't have really, I don't know where this was, I can't remember, but it said they never had a heart attack on record.
Yeah.
In the history of, and maybe it had happened, but it wasn't like this, every 6 people have heart attack or whatever. It was like,
Right.
it rarely ever happened. I remember telling my wife that, and she was like, that's not true. And I said, I think it is. If you really think about it, I mean, I think we've just become so accustomed to this. Like, this is just the world we live in. Right. And I love how you
Right.
gave the big picture where it's like, no, there was big steps we as a country made that made big shifts in our disease and what has happened in our world. And so,
Dude, and not to be a conspiracy theorist, it's not a conspiracy, it's a fact. Like, you can look at this stuff. I mean, there's congressional hearings. One of my courses, I have an online course that I teach, and I go through a congressional hearing, and literally Congress is telling these scientists, we need you to create the food pyramid ASAP. And scientists are saying, we want to research. Congress says, we don't have time. You have to name it now. Congress made the food pyramid, not scientists. It's literally in congressional hearing transcripts, you know.
Sure.
And who was in the back pocket of Congress was breakfast foods, you know, companies, essentially cereal grain companies, you know.
Sure.
And so we pumped out whole grains help your heart, whole grains help this, whole grains help that. Complete BS. No research to prove that at all. And
Right.
any research that's out was paid for by the grain companies, by the cereal companies.
Right.
And some of those companies also have money coming in on the back end with drugs, you know. And so here's the deal. There's the thing that I argue for. So look, like, anytime you change something, like if you eat a standard American diet and you become vegan, you're going to feel better. You're going to move the needle. Good for you. If you do keto, you do paleo. Anytime you go from a standard American diet towards anything, you're going to make progress. You're going to feel better. You're going to probably improve your blood work. Now, I will tell you that there's no culture in the history of the world who was vegan. Okay. There's no culture in the history of the world who was vegan. The only time they ate a solely plant-based diet is if they were bad hunters and they couldn't find meat, or they went through a bad stretch and they couldn't find meat.
Sure.
So absolutely, vegetables are essential. Vegetables are the key for most people, unless you have severe gut issues. And then actually vegetables can actually be damaging, to be honest. But for 95% of people, vegetables are absolutely positively the key. Now, you also need a full spectrum of amino acids, which is protein, which is from like wild caught fish, pasture raised pork, free range chicken, grass fed.
Do you support whey protein? Let me ask you that.
Again, it depends on who you are and what your goal is. So a lot of people don't do well with whey protein, and a lot of whey proteins have an ingredient list this long with a bunch of crap in them. So like, if you were a healthy person,
I might have just bought some, by the way. Well, there it goes.
Return it.
Well,
so like for athletes, I will use a grass-fed whey protein that has 5 ingredients, super clean. Okay. For most people with health issues or who want to lose weight, I will not use whey protein at all. So if you're an athlete and you're lean and you don't have any health issues, then I'm okay with a very clean grass-fed whey protein. You know, maybe,
I'm good then, I think.
Yeah, maybe a collagen protein, egg white protein. There's different proteins, you know.
Sure, yeah.
But if you have health issues, a lot of times you don't do well with the binders and the ingredients in there. And so we have to be very careful for people who have digestive issues or gut issues. So, and the final thing I'll say on the previous question is there are cultures in the world, like the Maasai tribe in Africa. They've been on a keto diet for centuries. All they eat is fat and goat milk and cow milk and blood. Like they have almost a zero carbohydrate diet, and they have no heart disease. They have no cancer. They have amazing health, amazing genes. They're lean. They're strong. Their skin looks amazing. You know, and so there's also another, I'm drawing a blank on they're up in Alaska. The Inuits, I believe, was like an original like Eskimo type tribe. They also had little to no carbohydrates in their diet, and they had no heart disease. They had no cancer. They didn't have the word for heart disease in their language because nobody had it. Right. So a lot of times people get so fixated on meat, no meat, meat, no meat. And I believe I've tried a vegan diet, I've tried a paleo diet, I've tried a keto diet, I've done intermittent fasting, I've done all these things. And I believe that if you take any person who's on a standard American diet and you do any of those things, they're going to show improvement. And so it's not necessarily to fixate on meat or no meat. It's all the other things that we eliminate. Whether we do a vegan, paleo, keto diet, we're eliminating generally grains, sugars, processed dairy, and toxins. And if we eliminate those things, we're going to make a lot of progress. But the final thing, I said final thing 3 times now. This is really the final thing.
It's all good.
It is that we need, I said this earlier, we need protein, which is called, we have like branch chain amino acids or a full spectrum amino acid profile. So like athletes and bodybuilders will take amino acids as a supplement. And amino acids are just the building blocks of protein, and protein is the building blocks of muscle, essentially, right? So we need a full spectrum amino acid profile, and it's very difficult to get that on a vegan diet. You could do it, but you'd have to be very, very strict. Then we need something called essential fatty acids. They're called essential fatty acids because our body doesn't make them. We must consume them. And it's very, very, very hard to get enough full spectrum amino acids, and almost impossible to get essential fatty acids on a vegan diet. So I'm a big believer of, 80% vegan, but bring in wild caught fish, free range chicken, pasture raised pork, grass fed beef, or maybe if you just want fish, fine. But you've got to get essential fatty acids in your diet, period. And if you're on a vegan diet, you're gonna have to supplement a ton to get that. So anyway, that's my 2 cents.
I wanna dig into. No, that was so much good information, guys. Keep taking notes as you're listening, and this is so good. I want to dive in a little bit to intermittent fasting. So this is one I've heard. I don't remember when I probably heard this. I don't know, a couple of years ago. I'm sure it's been around. I've heard bodybuilders talk a lot about it, but I see it's like. I've heard them talk like kind of in that world, more of the bodybuilding type. I think that was where I first heard about it. Someone was sharing they started doing. And I remember hearing it. I was like, that is, like you shared, not what I was taught as a child in a lot of ways, right? I was taught to eat first in the morning and all that, all right, whatever. First, can you just explain intermittent fasting? Yeah. And then can you explain what it does to your body? Because I think when people hear fasting, they kind of freak a little bit because fasting sounds painful, just the word itself. And I don't think it actually is. I mean, it is fasting, but there's food involved, right? There is food involved, intermittent. Anyways, can you explain what it is? And then I think for me also, because I don't fully understand it, what does it do to your body and to your health generally?
Yeah. So I've been intermittent fasting since 2015, and I freaking love it. I got leaner. I stay strong. I feel good. My focus is better. My energy is better. Like I can stay very lean, like not even trying. I mean, I try because like I live a lifestyle, but my point is like, I can eat as much as I want in my food window and stay lean by intermittent fasting. And now intermittent fasting by definition is you essentially like, okay, when you fast, there's 3-day fasts, there's longer fasts. There's a ton of research to show that fasting has amazing effects on the body and our health. Okay. So one of the biggest ones, not to get scientific, but it's called autophagy. And it's essentially like programmed cell death. And so it's essentially like cleaning out of the cells. And so when we fast, our body essentially, at the cellular level goes in and gets rid of the junk, gets rid of the bad cells, and they die. And our new cells, our new cells replicate and the bad cells die. And so fasting, and there's way more science to it, but that's essentially like, kind of the low level version. So autophagy, it has effect on cell death and killing off bad cells and replenishing good cells. And there's a ton of research on that with cancer. and many other diseases, including neurological disease, autoimmune disease. I mean, you name it. Like, so autophagy. So fasting has a very proven and very, very good effect on that. Additionally, fasting, we know one of the biggest issues with health and with weight gain is blood sugar issues. So when I say hormones, I am talking about like your sex hormones, like testosterone and estrogen and pregnenolone and progesterone. There's stress hormones like cortisol, and there's things like growth hormone, thyroid hormones. All those hormones are essential for optimal performance and getting lean and staying healthy. But the number one thing that controls hormones first is your blood sugar. So insulin is a hormone that's released to stabilize blood sugar. And so one of the biggest misconceptions was, breakfast is the most important meal of the day, eat 6 meals a day. You know, the more you eat, the more you stabilize blood sugar, blah, blah, blah. And that a lot of that came from the bodybuilding world. And the first big book that kind of talked about that was, I think it was Fit for Life by Bill Phillips. And the guy is great. And there's a lot of truth to that, and it works for people. However, there's more research now to show that one of the big benefits of intermittent fasting is it actually helps stabilize your blood sugar, because your blood sugar is low for a long period of time. And so stabilizing blood sugar can have a very good effect on other hormones downstream, and can have a lot of good health benefits, including getting lean and having a lot of neurological benefits as well. The other thing is, in resting our digestion, where our body's not constantly digesting, it actually can help us heal our gut, and it can help improve our microbiome, which we talked about earlier. So, you know, like there is, and then the other effect of fasting can just be simply caloric restriction. And so a lot of people think that, like, oh, to lose weight, I just have to eat less calories in, calories out. And at the most basic level, there's truth to that, but that doesn't work for a lot of people because they're hormonally broken. So if your blood sugar's all messed up, if your gut's messed up, if your hormones are messed up, if you're inflamed, if you're not sleeping, you might be on a caloric restrictive diet for years and gain weight because your systems are broken. So for the average young healthy person, you might be able to say calories in, calories out is accurate, but for most people it's not, and it doesn't work because there's other things that are broken in the process. So fasting, again, you know, autophagy with healing our cells, regulating blood sugar, you know, stabilizing blood sugar, and then within those effects, there's a ton of research with anti-cancer, with anti-inflammatory effects. And so the longer we fast, our body actually releases like anti-inflammatory chemicals that reduce inflammation and are very healing. So that's just some of the benefits of intermittent fasting, and it's very much been proven to affect and improve many disease states.
How long are the windows that you should do it? I've heard different ones, like 12 and 8, or you said 3 days. Does it matter? Is there a certain window? What do you think?
Yeah. So I think when I teach people this, I have them transition. Okay. And so for example, a lot of the research has shown that a 16-8 split is ideal, meaning 16 hours you don't eat, 8 hours you do eat. Okay, so what that would look like potentially is you only eat every day between 12 p.m. and 8 p.m. Okay, so you skip breakfast, you have lunch, a snack, and a dinner, or and
Okay.
It sounds crazy because a lot of people think, oh, I need breakfast. Well, you need breakfast if you're a carb burner and you are you have blood sugar issues. So the more you get your body into a fat burning state and you're using good fat for fuel, and you start fasting, you're actually going to have way more energy, way more focus. You're going to feel way better, but it takes time. It's not going to happen overnight. I mean, the adaptation can take months, and it can get better over years. So now, like, I feel great when I don't eat and I'm eating a high fat diet between 12 and 8. So I would say 16 hours of fasting, an 8-hour window of eating is ideal. And that's been shown, the research has shown that like that's where it starts. And if you could push it even further and like a 20-hour fast in a 4-hour window, that's great. but most people can't do that, and that's okay. So you're going to get benefit just from that, 16 hours. And if you're a type of person who eats breakfast at 7 a.m. every morning, week 1, push it back to 9 a.m. Week 2, push it back to 10 or 11 a.m. And then by week 3 or 4, noon to 8, and you're there.
It's good. That's really good, man. Well, we've covered a lot. I love this conversation. I feel like we've covered so much. And Terry, I just appreciate you, bro, and just appreciate your wisdom in this. Is there anything else, just anything on your mind that you would want to share with the audience? Any new thing? Obviously, want to get people connected to you. Is there any way people can get connected? Is there a Facebook page, a website? I mean,
yeah. So I mean, people are welcome to go to my normal Facebook, Terry Shanahan. I have a website, theshanahanplan.com. People can email me. It's Terry, Terry, @theshanahanplan. I'm not horribly active anymore on social media, but I'm on Instagram and on Facebook. And so I love people to reach out and I still do some coaching, and I'd be happy to work with people. I would just tell people this, like, I've been in this space a long time. I've seen a lot, like you said, of fads. And my information, I feel like, has never changed. It's eat real food, it's strength train, it's sleep, it's move. A lot of what I do is helping people optimize their body, feel, look, perform your best, and do it in a way with less work. Like there's way smarter ways to do this. Like if you're out there just cardioing your butt off like crazy, like come talk to me, because we can save you hours of time and drastically improve your health and how you look by working smarter, not harder. And I would just tell people that this is a journey. Like I've been on this journey for 16 years, and it's not easy, but it's worth it. And, some people say, well, it's expensive to eat this way. And it is more expensive, but I'll tell you what's really expensive is disease. Disease is very expensive. It ruins our life. It can ruin people financially. And so I just encourage people to make baby steps today. Ask yourself, who am I? What is my goal? And take some action steps from what we shared today and just move in the right direction, and just have realistic expectations. Like we can get great results in 30 days or 60 days, but I really encourage people to just do something that they can make a lifestyle and over time progress into and do forever.
It's good, man. Well, I love that. I love that strategy. Guys, I love those. Can you share those simple ones? You said real food.
Yep. Just eat real food, strength
real
train.
Food, strength train.
And sleep. Yep.
Sounds like a good plan.
And
sounds like a good plan.
If you wanted a fourth, it would be incorporating intermittent fasting.
And try that out a little bit. And so, guys, a lot of great information. Our prayers, you make this practical. Again, we are called by God to change the world. We must take care of our bodies, and we have to be smart and continue to, like he said, we work so hard in so many other areas, but this one tends to maybe get left on the back burner for some of us. And so, guys, just continue to invest, research, contact Terry. He gave his information, website, do your research. But guys, let's continue to just get healthier as a team. Terry, thank you so much for being on the show, bro. You are a blessing, wise brother, and I'm learning alongside everybody else. So thank you, man.
Hey, Joey, thanks so much for having me, man. It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Amazing, bro. Thanks, bro.